Certainly the best.
Many thanks for joining us on the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. I'm Sonny Duke Okosun. It's always a delight to have you join us on the program. Let's get the show started with some of the stories we are following. President Bola Tinubu has directed all political appointees serving in his administration who intend to contest elective offices in the 2027 general elections to resign their appointments on or before March 31, 2026. The presidential mandate, which targets ministers, heads of agencies and aides, is aimed to ensure strict adherence to the country's legal framework and maintaining the integrity of the upcoming electoral cycle. According to a circular issued by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, OSGF, the directive is pursuant to provisions of Section 88, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2026, as well as the timetable issued by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for party primaries. You recall that Governor Monday Okwebolo did a similar thing some few weeks back, telling those who are in his government with the intention of contesting to quickly resign and pursue their political ambition. Let's look at other stories that we're following this time on this segment of the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. Okay, from the Southeast, Governor Soludo has canvassed support for Tinubu's second term, saying he would emerge victorious in the next general elections ahead of the 2027 general elections, talking about the forthcoming election. Charles Soludo says his party, All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, will not field a presidential candidate. He stated this on Friday during a media chat in Awka, the state capital, 3 days after being sworn in for a second term in office. We're not going to field one candidate, the economist turned politician said in reaction to his party's plans for the 2027 polls. President Tinubu is just back from the UK, and Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, said Tinubu's visit offered the opportunity for Nigeria and the UK to take their relationship to another level with the agreements that had been reached on exports. President Tinubu on Thursday, of course, met with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and that engagement took place. Okay, that's the much we have for you on the show from the News Corner. Let's go into the conversation. A whole lot is going on in the country, and the question on the lips of some is, does President Bola Ahmed Tinubu deserve a second term? Is he worth rewarding with a second term? Against the promises made before he came on board, and to what extent have these promises been realized? Our panelists here in the studio, I'd like to thank very especially another statesman, Gentleman Amego Esquire, a lawyer, grassroots politician. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Duke. Thank you so much.
We also have with us in the studio Dr. Okhaifo Esegbe, a senior lecturer, Igbinedion University, Okada. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Son Duke. Good morning, Nigerians.
It's a global edition of the program Politics Today on Independent Television, and that's why we have panelists joining us from the global community. From Ontario, Canada, we've got Dr. Osaze Iyoha, a development economist. Dr. Osaze, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Okay, we also have joining us from the UK, Chief Daniel Matthew Akwamoha. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
And from Ireland, we have Imaswe Lucky also joining us. Thank you for joining us, Lucky.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, that's why I told you it's a global edition of the program. But let's get this show started from home, because as they say, charity begins at home. President Tinubu is just back from the UK. Now, the momentum for the election is building. We're asking the question in terms of impact of governance. Does President Bola Tinubu deserve a second term? What is the perception of Nigerians towards his person, towards his governance, towards the impact that he's made this past few years?
Well, we welcome welcome Tinubu from the United Kingdom of America. But before he left, there was something very funny. There were about 60 people waving fervently to him as if he was going for a very long journey. The same people who waved to him at the airport, 6 hours later, were with him in the UK. Also, sometimes certain things they do is so funny why they behave like that. You are just waving fervently, but the second plane is for you to also join him over there to sign a memorandum of understanding. Well, we welcome him back to Nigeria. It was a very big trip. We thank we thank the King Charles of Great Britain, who treated our president, treated him very well, took his hand like a younger brother, climbed the staircase, did so many good things with our president. Thank you, the King of England. We thank you so much. So what follows is we want to be told what now came out of that trip. It's not sufficient to say state visit. Yes, state visit, but what will now come out that will be beneficial to Nigerians? That's what we are expecting now. But nobody has told us all the achievements he made in the United Kingdom. But definitely, there must be some achievements that Nigerians will want to know about and be happy about. Then you're talking of election 2027. Well, I'm an APC man. I'm not here to campaign. I'm here to say it as it is. In your opening remarks, you mentioned Soludo. What is Soludo talking? Soludo Abga. It was a gift to Ojukwu. He shouldn't even be talking of presidential. Apart from your own enclave, apart from your state there, Abga is not anywhere. So
yeah, that's why he's saying that they won't feed the presidential candidate.
He cannot even feed. That's a rhetoric. He doesn't even need to tell us that they will not feed. He cannot even feed. Okay. Because can he go to 36 states? Certainly he cannot. So forget about that. It's not news to us that he will not feed. We know he will not feed. Okay. Because he hasn't the wherewithal. Now, talking of whether he will win, yes, of course. A man that has 31 states or thereabout, how many states now? Has 31 states of the 36. Even if we get 300 votes from each state, multiply that by 32 or 31. So we're already...
Does he deserve it?
Oh, well, he deserves it.
All right. All right, let me proceed there, Barrister Mbego. I mean, you established the fact that you are a chieftain of the APC.
Yes, no, but it's almost a convention here in this country that once a president comes in, he does 8 years. Okay. So
whether he did well or not is immaterial.
Well, Nigeria don't know how to take Nigeria don't know how to take off responsibility to find out from a candidate. You said you will do XYZ. Have you done it? Okay. If you did not do it, we will vote you out. Nigerians don't see that. They don't know how to do that. Okay. So once it's there, it's 8 years.
Most complete. Talk Dr. Okaifo, let me get your take. Well, the indices on the ground.
Yeah, with the indices on the ground, I think it seems to be tilting towards Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because almost all opposition seem to be crumbling. So if the oppositions have crumbled or they are crumbling, then there's a problem. But if we actually want to judge it, I don't think President Tinubu deserves a second tenure. One basic factor is the issue of it is time for us to take people by their words. We need to hold people responsible by their words. So, Tinubu told us before he came into power that if he is unable to give power, electricity to Nigerians, Nigerians should not vote for him. So, and I think the electricity issue has become so epileptic. In some areas, none. As it were, electricity business in Nigeria is a fraud. I can prove that. I don't see the reason why BEDC, for example, they won't give you transformer, they won't give you anything. You provide those things for yourself, then you'll be asked to donate it to them under duress. Then you will be put on the stimulated billing, and at the end of the day, you will not have light, and they will still bring a estimated bill for you, and nobody is talking. Who is supposed to talk? The president. So based on that, I don't think the president is at the second coming. Then number two, oppositions are crumbling. They are not crumbling because they want to crumble. They are crumbling because of the system on ground. You can see now anywhere the ADC want to hold a rally, something mysterious happens to them. They go there, beat them up, disorganize them. It happened in those states likewise. It happened in other states and what have you. So at the end of the day, you discover that it is going to, if the president is going to come back in 2027, it's going to be by hook and by crook. It's not actually by the people's request.
Okay.
It is that Amanya Bona, so it's not about the ballot.
Okay. It's not going to be through an authentic process.
I would say
yes, it's
should be credible,
yes,
free and fair.
Yes.
So that free and fair and credibility
will not be there for him to come on. All right, let's take the conversation to our global audience. Let's begin from Ireland, where Emmanuel Lucky is joining this conversation. We're talking about 2027 and the odds against the incumbent president Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then the perception of Nigerians in terms of promises made, promises not fulfilled, or promises fulfilled. What's your take, Lucky?
The way things have been going for the president, is quite obvious that his route to the 2027 to provide that signal of return on back to our story of 2027 is very rocky. And I'll take you back to when the president was campaigning in 2023. And his campaign strategy was based on change. He promised of security in terms of the unemployment and a whole lot of factors, of the challenges that we faced during the Buhari administration. And one of the major things, if you look back in time, that of the current president, President Tinubu, you see, according to Amnesty International, over 10,000 people were killed within the first 2 years due to insecurity attacks during the first 2 years of his administration. In my own opinion, the president has been a total failure in terms of how well he has handled insecurity. Some might argue that the insecurity issues were issues that were inherited from the previous administration. But it's worth knowing that within the first year, over 4,500 people were killed under the same administration. That's over 33% of what we experienced in the previous administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari. I know, just like Dr. Pedro have said, because of the structure that we have in place back home, and he has been able to capture most of the state governors. So he might, definitely come back and definitely win, because the Nigeria system today is almost looking like a one-party state, if that's so sad to think of. But in terms of performance and delivering of the manifesto and the mandate that was given to him, the president has failed woefully. And don't forget, according to the World Bank, over 104 million people are living, below poverty level, and that's an average of $2.2 per day. That is insane. This current government came into power, and inflation in 2024 rose to 34%, the highest, one of the highest that we've ever witnessed, with food inflation rising up to about 40%. The previous government was bad, we know. But even in Buhari's government, I think with the highest recorded was about 25% in terms of inflation. Yeah, he definitely might come back in 2027 because the opposition seems so weak. And I will agree with the other speaker. They are not weak, not because they don't have the intention to, but it seems like the
Okay, let me pause you there, Emmanuel. Let me pause you there. I'll come back to you in just a moment. We've got Chief Daniel Matthew Akwemoha is joining us from the UK. Chief, talk to us about the impact made by this government and the perception of Nigerians. Where you hear people say that these don't matter because Nigerian politics is very, very unique. It's on record that it was in Nigeria that a certain governor contested in a governorship election and came forth and eventually he became the governor of his state through the courts. Let me get your take along those lines.
It's the same Nigeria that the former Senate president did not contest for an election and he returned. And the person who contested one was somehow rejected. I think this is going to shock everyone that I want to praise late President Buhari on one thing. And please, before everybody drop off the chair, just let me finish. There's one thing President Buhari refused to do that this president, lack of better, was criminally just did in their state visit to UK. Nigeria is part of the Commonwealth citizen, and UK is the head of the Commonwealth. One of the things that Buhari was pressured, the Oshibanjo openly refused that the unlawful deportation of Nigeria from UK. Basically randomly picked and put in the plane and then hijacked or sent home. During Buhari for 8 years, he rejected it on the grounds that, number one, we're a Commonwealth nation, and number two, the welfare state in Nigeria does not exist to support somebody that's lived at least over 6 months a year in UK to just be deported without due process. Nigerian government under Tinubu just signed an immigration bill that Britain can, either way you look at it, unjustly deport Nigerians that may have overstayed or have their application refused on any other fallacious grounds, violating our right as a Commonwealth citizen. Buhari, as terrible as Buhari was, he never did that. Before that, neither did Jonathan. When Britain was randomly hijacking people on the street and enforced deportation and saying Jonathan threatened they would deport their diplomat if they didn't stop. They stopped. Then Buhari came in and even went further. Not just anyone, you have to give them the Commonwealth citizen right. This terrible, I support Tinubu up until this point. I'm beginning to question my support for Tinubu. And I realize that it's due to the weakness of the opposition that made people like me even continue to support President Tinubu. Because there's no critical opposition that's actually addressing the concern and the failure of President Tinubu, this presidency. One of the egregious things done in their state visit to UK is that the Commonwealth law that protects every Commonwealth citizen was just overruled and violated. And nobody's talking about it. The media are not talking about it. Even the law in UK, when they tried to pass the same law to randomly pick people and send to a camp in, what's it called, in Rwanda, was rejected. Nigerian government just agreed to it. So really, any moment now, be expecting truckload of plane of Nigerians to be sent home for no reason. Because your government have allowed it. I don't know. I don't know if they consult with Nigerians, if they consult with lawyers, the implication. Buhari have the common sense to say, this is not right. This is a Commonwealth citizen. We signed it. I would say we, because Nigeria, the president represents us, but I don't think he represents my interest or the interest of so many Nigerians living in this United Kingdom. It's the most shameful and disgraceful thing. And none of the media are picking it up.
Okay, let me pause you there. Let me pause you there quickly, Chief Daniel Matthew. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Let's quickly link up with Dr. Iyoha joining us from Ontario, Canada. Doc, quickly talk to us about what your take is on the issue of governance impact and public perception against the background of the aspirations of Mr. President. Someone told me yesterday, the president is asking people who have intentions for political office to resign, but he too has intention for second term. What issue follows you as well? That's what they like. Let me get your take, Dr. Iyoha.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm an economist, so I'm going to focus on economic indicators. You know, I will quickly just want to follow up on what, just before I go to the economic indicators, on what the last speaker, Chief, I think Matthew from UK stated. You know, when you have a government that is terribly in search of validity or validation, you know, there's tendency that they are going to be compromising on so many aspects. You know, we saw when Trump was harassing Nigeria, how we quickly took 7 million plus also to go and lobby. We saw how France has been interfering in our tax laws, the interference. We saw going to UK. You saw the bandwagons of governors that went along to UK. Governors that bade him farewell in Abuja, all of a sudden were in UK waiting. I counted 15 ministers that were there. The NSA, I don't know what the business of the NSA is. I don't know what the business of the defense minister in UK is. When people were just killed in Borno on the same day, when there was killings in Katsina, 15 ministers were there, 10 governors, at least close to 10. I saw Akwa Ibom governor, I saw Lagos governor, I saw Imo governor. At least I counted up to 5 or 6 senators. The Senate president was there. This is a meeting between two men, and that entered. Then we even saw people that want to call, I will not want to use the word touts. We saw people like Chief Priest Kubana, people that are not state actors. They are not government officials. They are not. Where do you put Kubana Chief Priest? I saw Kubana Chief Priest right in front of the president's door. I saw the video. And sometimes you wonder, is this the level that Nigeria has really dropped to? You know, so going back to the economy, so it's just a government seeking validation. So whatever they give you to sign, just because you want validation, because of probably the insinuations that followed the last election. So everything you would naturally sign. But economic indicators from 2025, where is our inflation? Did it improve? Our GDP, did it improve? Before, in a couple of years, we were the largest economy in Africa. Today, we are the fifth in terms of placement. Inflation rate, the government prides itself. And that's another thing. The government is a government of propaganda. So the effort that should be put into development is put into propaganda. We say inflation rates, the government is priding itself that inflation rate has dropped to 15%. But that's because of the rebasing. I call it, the inflation rate was rigged. Until April last year, inflation rate was 34%. When it was rebased for no reason, which they gave, it fell by 10% from 34 to 15%. And you know, the government's targeted inflation in 2025 was 15%. So it just fell towards that. So why did inflation fall? The rebase year was 2009 before. So now we're now rebasing 2005 against 2004. And you know, 2004 witnessed the highest increase in price. That was the height of inflation when it went to 34. So it's like comparing. So 2009 prices were low. So it's just like saying price of yam is 1,000. 2005, 2009 price of yam is 10 naira. Okay. So 1,000, 10 naira, you see the big difference. But when we're now rebasing it against 2024, because 2024 prices were already high, price of yam was probably 900. So 2025 price of yam is 1,000. So you see this small difference. So that's why you saw inflation fell. So there was no magic. Then we rearranged the food basket. We removed things like buka. You know, those of us that go to eat in restaurants in buka, it was removed from the food basket. So we're not calculating those in computer. So inflation dropped. The figures were big. It came to so economic growth generally. GDP grew by 3.9%. Yet that is also politically driven. Manufacturing grew by just 1%, 1.3%. IMF and every international organization have said that our manufacturing has to grow by at least 30% for the next 30 years.
Okay.
This election year, 2026, the 2026 budget, we've also seen it. It has been targeted at inflation, GDP growth to grow by 4.09.
Okay, let me just pause you there, Dr. Iyoha. We'll come back to you in just a moment. These are figures and analytics that define governance, particularly at the international level. Barrister Mego, we have this conversation which borders on 2027 is between the APC on the one hand and the Nigerian people on the other hand. Let's take it off from there.
Again, we're back to square one. You see, Nigerians are very fond of lamentations. They don't know how to take anybody by his or her word. In 1999, Obasanjo told us that if he was unable to fix the lights problem in Nigeria, that his job was on the line. Do you know the meaning of one's job to be on the line? We should not vote him. But Nigeria didn't listen to that side of it. They voted him. So look at the 8 spent years of Buhari. He made a lot of promises. Nigeria do not know how to take anybody by his word. If you told me, for example, oh, I will give you breakfast when you come to the studio. If you don't give me today, tomorrow I will not come because I was expecting that breakfast. So that is you will just rabble-razzle. Oh, take my sister, take my son, take my beloved one for a position. Nobody cares again. The situation we are in this country now is so terrible. Do you have light in your home? They are now giving market to solar people. Everybody is rushing for solar. Even as a rock is 20-something billion or 2 billion for solar.
To cut off from the national grid.
How many people will cut off from the national grid? Is that how to govern the country? Look, sometimes when you want to discuss the problem of Nigeria, you get into a certain cloud that you cannot get out of.
Certain realms.
Yes, it's so much to discuss about. What are these people doing? Everyday appointment, everyday suspension, everyday killing. What is it that is now benefiting Nigerians that we must rest on? Look at our children. Millions are in UK, all over the world. Now somebody was saying, oh, there is no country in the world where you don't have a Nigeria in the prison. It is hunger, because Nigeria is not. Yeah, I just told them now that, oh, in 2034, all Nigerians who travel will now come back, because Nigeria will become so beautiful. But what are the indexes to that, to achieving that now? Where are they? So, but we wish them well.
Okay.
People like you,
okay,
sympathy with.
All right, Dr. Haifo.
Yes, sir.
Every time we say that Nigerians don't know how to treat their leaders who are irresponsible well,
exactly,
particularly through the ballot. But is it really the fault of Nigerians? We have seen how elections have gone over the years. When you have institutions that cannot, we can't really say they are truly independent to be able to hold leaders accountable. Isn't that where the problem really is?
Actually, that is where the problem really is. A certain philosopher said that the success of the election is not basically in the hands of the voters, but in the hands of those who count the vote. Okay? So the reason why our politicians are less perturbed is because they are the one that counts the vote. They are the one running for election. They will still be the one that will turn around to go and count the vote, because their cronies, their agents, those who they have helped before, those who they have put in position before, are now made to hold such offices. I put it to you that when President Tinubu was in court battling the last election, the President INEC chairman was one of his legal team. You can go and find out. So what we are saying is that the people has been so impoverished. So, and the first instinct of man is how to survive. So whether our election is more or less a festival, a figurative expression. It's not election per se. An election, when an election day there is restriction of movement, but government officials will have lead squad from one polling booth to the other and begin to beat up people where elections are not going their way, they disorganize everywhere there. What do we expect from there? So, and at the end of the day, people have already come to the knowledge that whether you collect money from politicians on election day or you do not collect, they will deliver their vote.
Okay, let's proceed there, Dr. Haifo. We'll take a break for the news headlines. We'll be back with you with more, and then we'll be bringing on board our global panelists to deepen this conversation before we cap it up with our panelists in the studio. Please stay on Politics Today on ITV. Much obliged to have you join us again on the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. Let's get to our global panelists for our conversation today. We've got Emmanuel Lucky joining us from Ireland, and of course we've got Chief Daniel Matthew Akwamokan from the UK and Dr. Osaze Iyoha from Ontario, Canada. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for creating the time to be with us on the program Politics Today. Let's take you straight to Chief Matthew. Chief, what is your expectation in terms of the disposition of Nigerians towards 2027 as it relates to the aspirations of the incumbent for a second term?
I think it's more or less clear that the incumbent is going to win not on the basis of what they've delivered, but rather on the weakness and failure of opposition, and also the failure of Nigerians who are not very critical, or rather being beaten to a position of negligence of their due process and rights and power, that their vote worth more than 1,000 naira or 2,000 naira or 10,000 naira in every 4 years. And for that reason, the opposition also are so much focused on trying to get power rather than why they should be given the opportunity to run or the opportunity to get the power back. And for that reason, I'm very perplexed. And I'm very perplexed because one with any critical mind can tell that, hold on a minute, I'm one of those, and I've been on this show singing the praise of President Tinubu, and I realized my praise of President Tinubu is because there's no any opposition voice. At this point, I would support Atiku, even though it's a southern person tone, if he can articulate something important, different from this voice that this present president is given. Neither would I support anyone that can articulate something different on the economy, on policy, on this immigration law that was just signed that says British government can just send a letter to take any Nigerian back home without any due process. I would support any candidate that would reverse that.
Let me just interject there, Chief. I mean, this document that you're talking about didn't say any Nigerian. It talked about Nigerians who are in the UK illegally. Isn't that what it says?
No, my dear brother.
Or
Let
is
me
it-
let me be very clear. I live in UK and I know how this works. One of the key things is how they circumvent the law in order to restrict your due process, and also using different excuses of, oh, you saw you didn't apply on time or delay, and any denier allows them to deport you. Now, underneath Buhari, they need to prove that, one, you're Nigerian, and two, that your right has not been violated, that you've been given accorded due process. Under this new immigration law, all what British government needs to do is a letter. They give this letter to the Nigerian authority, and the person, like, this person needs to leave, and they bundle that person, put in the plane and back to Nigeria. This is what it violates. You understand? Not only did it take away the due process, it also violates your right as a Commonwealth citizen. And now, what do we get in return? Because I studied it, I can read it to you. We have nothing in return. What the government is claiming, oh, it's going to ease trade. It didn't reform the immigration laws in Nigeria for you to apply for visa in Nigeria. It didn't speed up the process. It didn't take away the cost of traveling to UK. It didn't even reduce anything. It's just one-sided. It didn't give any benefit back that, okay, being a Commonwealth citizen, you have the right to this. It did nothing. It's basically take. And what is the business of the immigration officer in Nigeria signing an immigration law that is one-sided and claiming it gives us financial benefit? What financial benefit? I can read it to you. During the visit, Nigerian president had a talk with UK. No, let me read the part to you for you to know how abysmal, our lack of critical thinking, or even the consideration of Nigeria. Somebody said this government seems to be going around signing bad deals in order for its legitimacy to be accepted, to the detriment of the rest of Nigerians, to the poor judgment of us who cares about this country. I've defended this presidency, and I've thought it was the best of them all. But right now, my eyes is open, the veil is broken. And I'm telling you, for somebody who stood on the grass on this station saying President Tinubu is the best since sliced bread, it is obvious to me that everybody is saying I've been tone deaf. This is the worst he could do. Even Buhari had the common sense not to accept this. As terrible as people might think Buhari was,
all right,
Buhari is greater than this.
Chief Daniel Matthew, you're very passionate about this development with the visit of Mr. President. So let's just pause it there for a moment. Let me quickly get Emmanuel Lucky from Ireland, a political analyst. Emmanuel, quickly talk to us about what you expect from the Nigerian people against the background of some of the indicators. I mean, you give some very, very interesting analytics about the Nigerian economy in terms of the inflation rate, in terms of the GDP and all of that. These are interesting figures, but the average Nigerian is just concerned about how to eat eba, beans, rice, and gari on a daily basis. If that is achieved, it's good to go. So let me get your take on this, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Sonny. So the average Nigerian, like you said, is interested about what to take them by the day. But ask yourself this question: how many Nigerians can really afford to eat on a daily basis? Last year, one of the highest revenue that Nigeria generated was from foreign, transactions that were done back home. Where is this money coming from? People like us that lives in diaspora spending hard to pay what we call black tax back home just to sustain people that are living in Nigeria. I think the average Nigerian for sure know what to do. Just like the speaker from the UK said, it's just so sad that the political structure that we have currently in Nigeria, all indicators kind of favor the current administration that they will win because, of course, the way they have been able to gather up all the governors from all across the country. But if there was to be a free and fair election, if the electoral process was to be seemingly very pure and clean, we definitely know that the current administration have no chances of coming back to power. The average Nigerian is hungry. If you speak to any average Nigerian and you ask them, how are you doing? You better not be ready for their response, because their response is going to initiate, a transaction from you or for you to support them one way or the other financially. So I think so far so good. The president, he has not done well. He has not fulfilled his promise. And I think it was Dr. Amengo that said that we should owe if a politician makes a promise during their campaign period and they have their manifesto and say they are going to do X, Y, Z, we should hold them accountable. But I think it should also get to a point where the politicians also have some level of shame. If I say I'm going to provide electricity within the first 4 years of my stay in office and I'm unable to do it, I should have some level of consciousness and not even want to run again. But I guess our politicians don't have no shame. They don't care about the ordinary man on the street. They don't care who are hungry. You're telling people to manage. The average, Nigerians is hungry. They are hungry, but then we're seeing politicians moving in convoys, and you have a governor who comes from a certain state that was alleged, of some certain level of fraud, and a couple of months after, EFCC can't even say anything about it. So we know what's going on. We know what what the current indicators move towards. Again, it's also sad that things are the way they are. But if we were to have a simply political system that allows the common man to have a say in the electoral process, for sure, the presidency, if he's going to sit back and tell himself the truth, he knows he's not coming back. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Emeasue. Let me pause you there. Dr. Iyorha, we've seen strong mobilization from the coalition platform, the ADC, as it were. But we just saw a latest development with some intra-party issues. We heard a faction is writing to the U.S. not to grant visas to some members, and I mean this is something that is symptomatic of our politics every now and then. Is this a dead end for the political mobilization against the incumbent for 2027?
Yes, I think. Yes, I think they are trying to play the playbook, follow the playbook of APC. APC did that during Jonathan's administration. The APC party then were going to US, trying to demarket the Jonathan administration, and it worked for them. They were successful. But the point is, Tinubu and his government seem to be better at propaganda than the ADC. So it's almost like Tinubu government is able to match them propaganda to propaganda. I think this government is the highest propagandist that we have ever had in history. So I don't know how that will work. The point is the incumbent has fortified himself. I'm not even looking at the governors. I know the governors have a role in that probably there can be crisis and there will be a way to shield it. But I know the governors will not have so much to do. But beyond the governors even, the point is the Electoral Act. I'm sure you saw what happened in the Electoral Act. The fact that the proviso was brought in to say that when the electronic transmission, when the network is not good, use the manual form. And when you've put that proviso, I can bet you there will be no network in any unit. So let's just set that one aside. So it means, with that alone, victory is almost sure. Then there were other introductions, like it has to be just primary and consensus mode of carrying primaries by parties. They removed indirect for a reason, just because we don't have time. I can't go into those details. Then the Electoral Act also, I'm sure we're also aware that the fact that if you forge certificates, forgery of certificate was removed among the reasons why you should take a candidate to court, or why a candidate should be removed from office by a judge. So it means that anybody, first of all, our basic requirement to even be president or governor was even the lowest in the entire world. It just said that you should just sit for WAEC, just sit for secondary school. You don't need to, even if you get FFF, you don't even, it's not the result, just sit. Then added to that terrible kind of qualification, they've now removed forgery. It's in the Electoral Act. Forgery has been removed as one of the reasons for a candidate to lose an election. So it just gives a direction. I mean, this is 2026. This is the kind of law that a nation in 2026 is passing. So with those kind of introductions in the electoral, you can know where the victory, everything has been, the ground has been watered. So we know where the victory is going to go. But
all right, thank you. Let's keep our fingers crossed, as we say. It's still politics today on independent television and radio this beautiful Saturday morning, global edition, because we have quite a number of global panelists joining this conversation. We'll take a minute break. When we return, we'll open our studio line so you can call and be part of the conversation. Please be brief because others are waiting. And always remember to turn down the audio level on your television or radio set to remove the echo so we can hear you better. Stay with us. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to comment on what Mr. Amico was saying that the citizens are supposed to be blamed for the kind of leader we are having. No, the citizens are not supposed to be blamed. The leaders are supposed to be blamed. The reason is that we don't have free and fair election. That is why they are behaving like this. Even though all the governors decamp to APC, even though the governors decamp, how many are the governors? Are they up to 200? The people that are voting, the masses, we are more than 200 million. So, if the election is free and fair, there is no way these people will come back. They know. And that is why the electoral act that was passed, they manipulate it to see that they allow manual, so that they can be able to change figures. Because through the electronic transfer, they cannot. Okay. There's no way they cannot. At that time, they are accountable to the people. So because of all this, now that's why they are doing anything they like. How can a president just pack for more than how many people to travel? You know how much it costs to do that? So they are not us. So that's just the problem we are going.
All right, thank you, voice of the ordinary people. Let's have more people join the conversation. Thank you. Okay, our studio number is there, 08077770300. That's the studio number. Hello, caller. Good morning. Welcome on board Politics Today. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning, Sir Duke.
Good morning.
My name is Mr. Jala, calling from St. Xavier.
Go ahead, please.
First, I want to very correct one information from Oriako in your studio there. That the current chairman is a former legal team of Mr. Tinubu. Okay. Mr. Duke, the minute you end this program, check. And if my brother Joe apologize to Nigerians for misleading Nigerians, and I said we should go to his office and submit a legal document for him. I can also be misinforming the whole Nigeria on the national television that the current chairman was a member of the legal team of Professor Bola Tinubu and on the national television.
Okay, now that's, you have a grasp with that, but contribute to the conversation. You've established that point. We will do a fact check on that before we conclude it. But what's your take on the conversation so far?
The one I want to say again, before Tinubu came to power, our GDP and our foreign reserve, most of our foreign reserve was less than $4 billion. As of today, in less than 3 years, we have over 40 billion naira as our foreign reserve. Nigeria can
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
Very
contribution.
Very angry.
We have a studio number 08077770300. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? Hello, good morning, caller. You're live on Politics Today. Go ahead with your contribution.
My name is Solomon Ataga.
Solomon, please go ahead.
The fact is very simple. Somebody make a promise because since the president came on board, he didn't refuse the convoy. As far as people concerned, he is using one of the most powerful car in the world called Beast. This is a country that cannot have life. So since the promise he cannot make, if we are where to be, they will give us chance to do free and fair. I don't believe we will give chance because before he made this promise, he was aware part of the council of the Buhari government. Fashola was Minister of Work and Housing, power. The money allocated during Buhari regime, till today, Fashola has not been called to explain to Nigeria that upon the trillions we invested on the electricity and the power was be collapsing because it's not party. So I don't believe the president is doing the best for the country. He just to Zagaban and lavish our money as far as concerned. Look at the issue of insecurity. There is nothing to write home about. So those who say the foreign reserve, they call ourselves the foreign reserve. Is the foreign reserve now earning good food to good Nigeria? Is it ending our fuel or ending the common citizen to be smiling? Better for them. So we cannot take that. We cannot be deceived again.
All right.
We only be unfair. That is just our problem.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, caller. 08077770300 is our studio number. Hello, caller. Good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning to you all in the studio.
Good morning.
My name is Fred.
Okay. Where's Fred calling us from?
Yes, I'm calling from Benin.
Go ahead.
Yes, in real sense, when you make a promise, you don't fulfill that promise, you have to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay.
Because he told us that if he did not give us right, we should not vote for him. Now, the ball is in our court. But what I'm afraid of, it has been happened before. People are saying they will give money. Now it's more than that. They will say, if you know we are not going to take money, we are not going to vote for this party, don't bother to come. You will see that there's nobody will ask them, why are you people saying this to the people that want to come and vote, to scare them away.
Yeah.
Look at what is happening at ADC. How many of them are they hold accountable? That why are you doing this to this opposition? People are saying there's no opposition. People in opposition now, they are beating them around the country. Nobody is holding people accountable.
Okay.
You understand? That is what people will be afraid of this.
Okay.
If they told me that if you know you cannot take money, you cannot vote for this party, don't come. I know there's nobody that will care for my safety. I will stay in my home.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's take our last call. We'll be back to our panelists as we call it a wrap now on the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? You're our last caller for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sonny Duke Okoso.
Thank you for joining us.
And the sincere Nigerian citizens in the studio and those calling in from far and near.
All right.
I am Reverend Sebastian Okenwa, Great World. First, I want to say that, like the last caller said, the man in power today promised and told Nigerians that if he cannot, I still have the video clip in my phone, that if he fails to provide security, if he fails to provide power, if he fails to make energy by the way of petroleum available and affordable to Nigerians, that Nigerians should not vote for him if he is coming for second term. That is a statement that is everywhere in the public domain. That is a statement to hold a man who want to say that he is a man with integrity, to hold him accountable, and to hold him accountable for. So, that is on that aspect. Now, let's judge his antecedents. Let's judge his achievements for this 3 years plus going to 4 years. Has he succeeded in any area? Has he succeeded? Has he made success? Has he made improvement? Okay, somebody was talking about foreign reserve being inflated. Is it genuinely increasing or the height by the way of their cock and bull, in fact, their makeup, their cosmetic statistics upgrade. Okay, something for example, you claim to have $40-something billion in your account, for example, and you are owing another $6 trillion by borrowing within 6-4 months. By borrowing, do you have money?
Okay.
For example, somebody said I have 10,000 naira in my account, I have 1 million naira in my bank account.
Yes.
Then the person now go and take loan of 100 million naira. Does that person have anything?
Okay. All right, Reverend, we'll proceed there because we are pressed for time as we call it a wrap. Let's quickly go back to our panelists. Final take, 1 minute, Dr. Haifo.
Yes, quickly, my final minute was, we will be on Njala. We know them, they have constituted themselves into attack dogs for the APC. They call out the radio station to attack people who is not speaking for them. That's so like somebody like Njala. I'm radio professor, I listen to all the radio stations. So, but the issue is that at my level as a researcher, I will come and say something. I don't come talk in the radio or television because I need an appointment. God has given me an appointment that is giving me my daily bread.
All right, thank you.
So let him go on fast track.
Okay, all right, thank you, Barrister Mego. Final word. Now you heard Nigeria speaking. Yeah.
Yes, I've heard them. Yes, they are right. Almost all of them are right. But this is a country where some people think that they are invulnerable. How can a governor say, for example, we are Buharist? One of the governors are let to have said so. We are the Buharist. That's treasonable felony. I said, oh, those who come out to vote, if you don't vote our way, you will go back in banks.
Yeah.
That's treason.
Okay.
And if people talk like that and they are not dealt with, they are not censored, then of course anybody can.
That's the culture of impunity we're talking about. Let's quickly meet our global panelists for their final takes. Let me begin with Emmanuel Lucky from Ireland. In 30 seconds, what's your final take on our conversation today?
Yeah, I just want to comment on one of those callers there that talked about foreign reserve going up. I just think the current administration is just looking for international recognition and legitimacy. One thing I would say, no matter what foreign policies you have or achievements you must have recorded within your tenure, but then it's not reflecting on the life of the ordinary man on the streets, then it's your reforms are definitely not working. And just something for people to know there that hunger is temporary for those that experience it. Right. So no matter what your achievement might be, foreign reserve, of course, we know what was done with that to reflect those figures with foreign reserve, the devaluation and all of that. But we're not going to go into that.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. We're pressed for time. Let's meet Chief Daniel Matthew. Final take, Chief. Mute. We can't hear you. Can you mute? Okay.
I want to say about 2027. Fear is false evidence appearing to be real. And without change, we cannot evolve or grow. So change is a must. Come 2027, we cannot be afraid of our shadow. Because if not, death is certain. And if death is certain, then we also must change. We, 2027, must vote right. And without fear, without favor. Because change is necessary. Because somebody is there does not mean they deserve the second term in office. It does not mean.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Dr. Sase, final word in 30 seconds.
Yes, it's just unfortunate that we didn't have time to bring out.
The time is never enough. Yeah.
Foreign exchange, the foreign reserves that the last speaker talked about. The fact is that Dangote started producing, so the Nigerian government was not now spending money on importing. The Japa syndrome reduced in 2024, 2025 because UK, Canada, US, they locked their borders. Okay. So the demand on the pressure on dollars reduced. So it was just accidental. Foreign exchange increased, but our debt has increased from 80-something trillion. It's currently 158 trillion.
Okay.
Debt servicing is 15.25 trillion.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. My time is up. I sure would have loved to continue with this conversation, but as always, on a day like this, I mean, time is of essence. I want to say big thanks to everyone, to our global panelists. Thank you for your time. And to our panelists on the home side, Barrister Mego and Dr. Haifo, thank you. And to all our listeners and viewers who took time to call into the show, we thank you so much. Have a great weekend from all of us here. Bye for now.
This is ITV.
Certainly.